Hello, everybody. Happy Hump Day. It's time for another Inkarnate live stream. Guess what? Today, we are making points of interest with the fantasy regional style. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I know that these POIs, and POIs just stands for points of interest, just so you're in the lingo there. Um, it's kind of hard to tell, like, how to make a POI without some landscape. So, we're going to be doing something a bit different from the last one. In the last POI series, we're going to be putting POIs or creating POIs on top of a pre-made map. So that's going to make it so much easier. Welcome, Cheryl. Welcome, King Clown. Awesome. Some familiar faces. I love. Glad that you're all here. Again, POIs, points of interest on a fantasy regional map. Super excited. I also have some updates or announcements that I want to make. The first one I'm going to go over. If you click this little bell, see what's new. The first one is that our Hell contest has been completed. Congratulations to the Musical Rogue for winning the competition. Absolutely fantastic map. Really, really liked it. So that looks great. So congratulations to the contest winner. And if you go up one, this is just a few hours ago, we went ahead and did all these new features. So Shadows 2.0, fill options, shortcuts bar, and more. So I'll go ahead and show some of that, a little bit of that stuff in the editor. So if you want a little more detail about what each thing is, you can go down the list. There's a little preview video that kind of tells you about shadow intensity, proper shadow scaling, new fill options. So go ahead and read this announcement if you want to learn a little bit. Also, there's a live stream banner that will now pop up. So that's kind of exciting. So whenever we're live on Twitch, this banner should pop up. And so that way you'll never miss a stream, provided you're not busy with other things, right? So that's pretty much it. I think there's one other announcement, and I forgot to mention this in a previous stream, and that is that, hey, we're going to Gen Con. Hey, Gen Con. That's in Indianapolis at the Convention Center. August 4th, August 7th, I think, August 8th. Can't remember the exact dates, but I believe that's it. So we're going to be at Gen Con. We're going to have our own booth. Go check that out. Super awesome. Gen Con is super cool. And this is our first time being there, or at least for me. So very exciting. Go check that out, okay? All right, so let's talk a little bit about, move on to what we're going to be doing. So if you want to follow along, you like this map, I'll go ahead and just copy the link right away. And I'm going to throw this in the chat. All right, so if you go ahead and click that link, you'll be able to clone and edit this map, okay? So what we're doing is we're just going to populate this map. The first thing I really would like to do is just open it up. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the map. And we're going to go over the whole map real quickly. We're going to review it, look at the different biomes, get kind of, spark our imagination a little bit. And maybe there's some spots that you're like, oh, hey, I want to do an ice thing or a desert one. So I'll go ahead and let people decide what they want to do. With that, first, let's just go over the map. I'm going to let it load and open up. I had mentioned earlier there were some updates. So you'll notice right here there's a shortcut bar that kind of gives you information about each tool. So if I click the select button, you'll notice that the quick options pop up. If I go to mass tool, there's add, subtract. If I go to this, so the shortcut keys come with each tool that's selected at the bottom. And if it's in the way and you don't like it there, it's kind of annoying, you just go to hide shortcut bar, and then that will just completely go away. So that's as simple as that, okay? And there's a bunch of other things too. You'll notice right here is that Twitch Inkarnate is live. Hey, that's us. That's us right there. So go ahead and click that too, all right? So that's going to be helpful. I know, there's actually a lot of cool stuff that's been added. All right, so we're going to go over the map. I'm going to go ahead and just clean up a mess that I made over here real quick. Remove these. All right, so we're going to be adding POIs to this map. I'm really excited about that. We're going to review it. We're going to go over each area, and you're going to be like, hey, what are we doing? So let's go ahead and zoom in. I'm going to move this to the side so we got lots of room. And we're going to start at the top, and we're going to go down. So we've got a nice Arctic region in the north. We've got kind of this snowy peaks along this coastline on this island here. These dark mountain region, a nice green mountain region. Click that space bar. You have a nice island here with the same green mountains, kind of a plains area with a big hill. Great locations here for POIs. You got like a volcanic area over here, kind of a Mordor kind of feel to it. We have a desert with kind of a wasteland here, as well as a mesa section. And we keep going down and you have kind of more wasteland and some open areas here, a bay, and then some smaller islands, and then another subarctic kind of area at the bottom. So basically, you make the landscape first when you make your map, right? So make all your actual landscape, your biomes first. Then you would move on to step 2, which is going to be your POIs, okay? And of course, that making roads is a part of that process. So hey, first time chat, I'm really glad that you're here, Mary Sybil. Hi, awesome. So glad that you're here. Even more beautiful people here. Oh, I love it. Hey, first time viewer, Sir Zeal. Yes, awesome. Love seeing all these wonderful people here. Okay, so hey, is there any certain areas that sparked your interest here? Let me know. If no one knows, don't worry. I can go ahead and set that up. But I was thinking that it would be great to kind of just go start in like the top and then we'll move our way down unless there's something specific. Hey, first time chatter, Roaring Wolves. I wish there were more buildings, especially certain buildings only have option at like the library. That's a great suggestion. You should go check out our Discord and you can go ahead and do our feature requests or art requests, specifically art requests, so that you can go ahead and, make suggestions on what you want. I think Cheryl can go ahead and put the Discord link in there. Oh, you're already in there? Did you do an art request? You should totally do an art request because believe me, that's the best way to get your art, the art that you want. Now, I think So Swanky Pants has suggested that we do this volcano region. And you know what? I really like that idea. Kind of a Mordor feel. There's kind of a nice, kind of a scary looking feel to it. I like that. So there are a couple things. When you're looking at the area, when you're looking at the region that you're working with and you're wanting to decide what kind of POI there is, you're going to think about the overall aesthetic. Like this, you've got some sharp, jagged rocks sticking out of the ground. You've got some craters. And you got a volcano. This all seems very inhospitable. This is not where you would have your honeymoon, okay? I mean, unless you're a demon of some kind, then yeah, this is the place you want to go, right? Have a nice little wine cooler right over there, set it up right next to the crater. Yeah, this is a nice place, right? But I think when I think of this kind of thing, I usually think of maybe a Dark Lord, Mordor kind of feel. And when I'm picking a POI, what really helps is to go into the catalog and turn off all the packs. Then you can go to like Dark Citadel, Abandoned, and then go to expand all. So you're picking what stamps you want to add. Nice one, King Clown, Your Majesty. When you're picking it, you want to think about a stamp set that fits within the theme, right? So for me, I think we'll go Mordor, Dark Tower. Is it tropey? Sure. But tropey, it can be very good, right? Trope is something that many people are going to recognize and going to be digest. And it also has a nostalgic kind of feel. It might remind you of Mordor or from World of Warcraft or whatever games or cultural movies, whatever you like, right? So it's always nice to think about those things. So when I think of Mordor and when I think of the Dark Lord or whatever I'm working on, I think of like maybe a tower might be a good choice. So we might want to go in and put a tower somewhere. Now, of course, when you're thinking about POIs, you're also factoring in scale. Now, when you're working a map like this size, it's okay if you want the POIs to be exaggerated and large because it's a representation of reality. And especially if you want some more details, just putting a little dot on this map might be not enough. Like you look at this map and you say the level of detail with the landscape and everything, you would think that the POI should match that same level of detail. So we're not going to do a little dot, right? Instead, we're probably going to use stamps, and it's all right if the point of interest seems a little large, exaggeratedly large. That's okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and pick a spot. I think this tower looks really nice. It's a good choice, and we can probably put it maybe like on the side of the tower, or we could put it, of the volcano, we can put it behind the volcano if we wanted to. There's a lot of different options. So we'll go ahead and place it in a couple locations. There's this nice big rock right here. So maybe this might do well there. We can increase the size if we want. We can use other ones. I think there's another tower. Let's look at our 2 tower options. There's one right here as well. I kind of like this one. This looks kind of cool. Let's go with this one. We'll put it right there on top right there. I think looks okay. And we can also do some other fun kind of things. When you're thinking about the tower, we could go Mordor-esque and maybe put like an eyeball there or something. That would be really nice. Yeah, scaling can be very difficult, but don't let it intimidate you, especially when it's all about what kind of map you're making, right? If you're making a parchment map, you don't need to have a lot of, buildings on it. Just little dots will work just fine. If you're putting emphasis on the landscape, do little dots for POIs. If you want to put emphasis on the POIs and the landscape, then do more details, right? So lots of options. Let's go into the catalog, and I am cheating just a little bit. I'm going to go outside of Fantasy Regional, and I'm actually going to go into Fantasy Battle Maps 2.0, and I'm going to pull out those new fancy eyes from the Hell style, from the Hell. Hey, Commander Band. Welcome, Commander. Welcome to the command post. Glad to have you here. I'm going to go ahead and pull an eye from Fantasy Battle Maps. Don't tell anybody. I'm cheating a little bit. And I'm going to put this kind of eyeball on top. I know it's totally taking it from Mordor, but hey, why not, right? And we can go ahead and put the eye right on top like this. And then I can also give it an object shadow. So if I go to Shadow, Object, it's going to be black at first. You can go to this yellow right here, or you can go with a red glow if you prefer that. Yellow kind of makes it pop out a little bit more. You can boost the shadow size, or you can keep it at red if you prefer that. I think yellow works just fine, or maybe an orangish kind of yellow might be better. And I'm going to go ahead and just set it up so it's just right there. Kind of fits nicely there. The Dark Lord. It's got a little eyeball there. And if you feel like there should be more in this kind of scary land, maybe you want to, maybe there's an army of people, an army of whatever, slaves of the Dark Lord, servants of the Dark Lord, whatever it might be, right? I mean, it's an evil lord, right? So he's probably going to be doing dastardly things. So maybe we want to say there's this like corrupted race of orcs who have just completely given their will to whatever this Dark Lord is. So let's go into maybe Fantasy Regional HD, go back in there, and maybe we want to type in orc, and maybe there's like an orc tower that we could use that might fit well. So let's just punch that in and take a look at this. Okay, I'm not seeing that. Let's try tower. I know there's one in here. There we go. I'm seeing a bunch of towers here, but not any orc ones. Oh, let's go. There we go. My mistake. Orc tower. Let's go with this one right here. What would be nice in the crater? A sulfur lake in the crater would be nice. Oh, you know what? Mini stories, that is a way better idea than an orc tower. We are so doing that. That is so cool with me. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use the path tool for this. I love that idea. So let's maybe, I don't know, maybe go with a green color. I know sulfur is not really that color, but it might look interesting. Kind of green and red are complementary colors, so maybe that's a good choice. Let's all maybe give it a green shadow as well. Let me just put it down real quick to see what it looks like, and I can go ahead and make changes to it. Let's go all the way with full opacity. Well, no, let's bring it down. Let's change the width, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the crater like this. And if you're using the path tool, I just want to make sure that some of the crater wall is exposed at the top like this. So we'll go ahead and just fill in the whole thing like this. There we go. Okay. Now, there are a couple options you can go about doing this. We can go in and change the blend mode, or we can drop the opacity. So either one works. But different effects work with different blend modes. So let's try going through various blend modes and see the one that might work best. And we'll go through each one. Oh, that's creepy. Ooh, overlay's interesting. The soft light, hard light. Difference. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Let's turn off the shadow, actually, and just see what that kind of looks like if I do that. And then maybe they'll get some changes here. Let's go through them. Ooh, that's an interesting one. That kind of greenish glow. I kind of like that. That looks cool. Let's go with that. So you have a nice little green pit right here. You know, we can even take that same path. We can copy, paste it, and scale it down, and then just fit it right in here so we have multiple. There you go. So now you got 2 sulfur pits there. So if you question the Dark Lord, you will be thrown into the sulfur pit. Oh, you think overlay Roaring Wolves? I kind of like luminosity, but if you want, we can go back and switch over. Let's take a look. This is color, sorry. Let's go back to overlay. You know, actually, I think that works better. I think you're right, because what it does is it does retain more of the information, like the actual art underneath, which is in the crater. And I do think that looks nice. Color did look cool, but this looks better. I think I agree with you on that. Now, there are a couple other things we can also do for fun. We can go in and create just some, maybe some smoke or some kind of creepy stuff, kind of like smoke coming out of it. Let's also change the width so there's some smaller ones, so it's not all the same width. There we go. Okay, so now you got some like tendrils kind of coming out of it, which kind of gives it, and then you can even make a little couple circles to pretend like there's maybe a bubble or something. There we go. There we go. So overlay. So let's take a step back and see how it overall looks. And I like that. You got a nice green crater with a nice thing, and especially when you zoom in. So we'll definitely be exporting this at like 8K so we can get the full view. This is in 3K and not in 4K because it can be kind of laggy, especially when you're recording. So in 3K, we're still retaining a lot of information. Now, what do you think? You think that's it? I think, you know, what would be iconic is some kind of ruin, I think. What do you guys think? A ruin makes sense. This place is kind of inhospitable. It's kind of a mess. So I think some kind of like ruin might also be nice. So we can maybe put that like up against here somewhere. We can put it, we can take it down a layer. So it's the smoky tendrils are kind of, well, no, let's go over here. Let's put it over here. I do think that some kind of ruin would be a good idea. And I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and use the blend mode luminosity. So it kind of retains the same kind of grayish information as the texture beneath it. And we'll put that right up against there. There we go. And so now we have this ruin right here. We've got some sulfur pits. We've got this nice Dark Lord tower. I think we could also, even to make it pop out more, maybe stick it a little further up on the ridge like this, and maybe scale it down so it kind of fits on the ridge. I think it being higher up is a better idea. So it being way higher up, and then it has, you know, looking down at this lava pit right here. I think that looks much better. And I think what else we can do is also maybe make some lava coming out of the tower going into it. So let's add a yellow shadow to it. And let's just apply it and just make sure that it works. So I'll go ahead and just take this down like this and just apply it like this, just to make sure that it looks like there's some lava maybe coming out of the tower. And it's going down into there. There we go. And it will also blend a little bit better. Some of it I don't really like, so we might undo some of it. That looks a little better. There we go. So you still kind of have the tower. It looks like it fits well right here. And it also goes through here. And I do see one mistake right here. There's some line work. Probably have to go with the mask tool and adjust that. You're always going to bump into some mistakes. So let's review what we've done on this island. We've got some nice sulfur pits. We have a ruin to explore, and we have this dark tower right next to this volcano. So it sounds like maybe a couple ways to access this would be to maybe an airship, or maybe they have to travel on the backside where it's not quite as hot. Lots of different options to kind of choose from, right? So I think overall that looks good. Let's add in one more item. I think when it comes to that eye, we should try to put a little emphasis on that eye at the top of the tower. So if we go search all styles, I just put explore. Actually, in fact, what might work better is even typing in spells, because I think there's color in that. So if you go into spells, and you'll see there's this nice spell explosion right here. Let's just put that on there, and we're going to put it right on top like this, and let's put it on top of it. Well, I don't know. Let's drop the opacity as well. There we go. Aha. I think that works a little better. I think that looks nice. So you have some, at least a like an aura of power like emanating from the eye. I'm still debating if I want to make the light orange or if I want to make it red to match in a little bit better. Hard to tell which one I like better. I think, though, just for the heck of it, we're going to go with a more pinkish hue. There we go. And I think that looks a lot better. Yeah, I think that looks good. All right, I think we're done with this section. There are other options. We could make camps for minions and stuff, but I think this is plenty. This is so much for your players to explore. There's lots of different regional maps, battle maps that can be created for this. These ruins would need to be a battle map. This tower would require several levels to go up to the top. Maybe the objective is to destroy the large eye. Maybe you're trying to get to the top, push it into the volcano so it blows up and the tower crashes. Hopefully some giant eagles will carry you off and save you in the end. But hey, maybe your players won't be that lucky, okay? But I think there's so much going on here that if this wasn't a campaign, there'd be a lot going on here. So let's go ahead and call that section good. So I'm going to save it. Only 39 changes, but every time we finish a region with POIs, let's be sure to save, okay? Sweet. Well, that looks good so far. Thanks, everybody. Let's keep going. We're going to check out some other regions. So let's go ahead. I'll zoom out of the map. I want you guys to go ahead and take a look. I want you all to take a look at the map when it's zoomed out. And then you can kind of look at all the different regions. And someone can mention the next region we might want to address. Super exciting. We'll let this save. And we're going to probably go till, we're going to do this for another half hour or so. So I'm not going to go on for a long time. But I think so far, this stream will be about an hour. And so next week, just so you know, we're going to be going over blend modes while this is saving. Awesome. Blend modes are terribly confusing, and they're kind of hard to wrap your head around. But with this next stream, hopefully I can kind of shed some light on how blend modes work and how applicable they are in the tool. Okay, so we take a step back. We're looking at our options here. Why don't you go ahead and take a look at the map and decide where you want to go next. There's desert, there's wasteland, mesa, there's an Arctic, a subarctic region, there's plateau, there's some alpine area at the north, some dark mountains, lots of different options. So if there's anything, middle of the desert. I love that idea, right? So middle of the desert, I love that suggestion. So I think that the middle of the desert makes the most sense, because let's look at just the pure function of where a POI would be on the desert. So there are a couple options. One would be in the middle of the desert, where maybe your major POI or major location that's important. It could be a ruin. It could be a bandit camp in a ruin. It could be an old abandoned well that's haunted. It could be a tower, a magical tower of illusions, a mirror tower, all different options when it comes what's going to be in your desert. And the reason why you want to put it maybe into the heart of the desert is because your players are going to have to travel through the desert, giving lots of encounter options, lots of ways to bump into maybe some desert merchants, some camps, maybe an oasis somewhere. So lots of different options. Now, there's not just that as well. Your players are going to want to have some kind of location beginning at the edge or the periphery of the desert, because they need to think, okay, there needs to be some kind of village, some place where your players can rest and prepare for this long, harsh journey traversing through a hot, dangerous desert, right? So make sure that you also have some kind of town, a village, an outpost, a fort, or whatever on the outskirts of your desert, so your players have some way to recharge before going into this very difficult region, okay? So let's maybe start with that first. Let's start with just a very simple village that maybe your players can go. So before, turn off all your stamp options, and let's just go with either, there's a couple options here. We can go with Babylonian or desert. So I'm going to select those two styles, and we'll go ahead and let those pop up, and then we can kind of decide what we want. So you can go with outpost-like feeling. Let's go ahead and just take a look at, see if there's any kind of options for a small village, and it doesn't seem like it's there. But remember, it could be a representation. So maybe the most important building of the village, or maybe a tall desert building like this would work just fine. And you want to just put it just right on the periphery, right here. Now, what I also want to make sure that I do is I want to go ahead and take this stamp and put it next to the tower region as well, and kind of verify that it's not so incredibly huge in comparison. So let me just put this up against it real quick and take a look. And the tower is at 10. This one's at 20. So now you don't have to have every single thing be the exact same size, but at least somewhere within the range. This is within 10. This is 15. It seems like it's not too large. It is 5 points larger than the tower, but it's okay to squeeze in a couple points above or below when you're thinking about scale. You just don't want one POI to be so massive in comparison to the others, unless it's maybe a large capital or you want to put a lot of emphasis on that building, okay? So just factor that kind of stuff in. So maybe there's just this maybe large village or this building right here, and we're just going to put it right here on the edge. Some of it's kind of in the desert. We'll put it right there, and we can scale it down more if you feel like it's too big. So you have this little village here, and you can put in like an extra building if you want, like a small one. Put it on the other side of the road maybe might look nice. So if you want, maybe find a smaller shack right here, and you see where the road is right here, and we can just put one on the adjacent side, on the other side of the road, just right next to it. So now you have a little bit more detail. And the last thing you might want to consider adding in is if there's going to be a location there, maybe show that there's maybe some water there. So what you can do is maybe punch in a palm tree. So we'll just punch in palm real quick. Let's just use one, and we'll just put a couple lining along the road here. Okay, we'll just choose a different one, and then a different one right here. So there seems to be 3 of them, so let's just use all 3 of them. So at least you kind of have showing vegetation, some life, and it's because it's at that edge of the desert where some life can kind of take place. So that's that last part. So here's this POI right here. If you feel like it's too big, you can scale it down to the smallest size. That's totally up to you. Okay, let's just scale it all down to 10 so you can kind of get a view for it. So that's what it is at its smallest size. Okay, and I think that works just fine. The palm trees can still be a little bit larger. All right. Okay. Oh, notice the lower part of the map is cut off. Oh, I don't think it is. I think that's just on the preview. I'm not sure. Nothing should be cut off. No, I don't think so. It looks okay. All right. So now you have that small village that goes to the periphery, and then they're going to go through this really difficult landscape, traversing through dunes to get to the center of the desert. And there's this conveniently nice large placed dune. Now there are several options that you can go with. You can put maybe a pyramid, maybe you want to put some kind of tower, lots of different options here. Let's look at our Babylonian options and our desert. So there is a desert temple right here. There's a desert temple or desert ruin, more ruins. It just depends on what it is your players are going to be doing out there, right? If they're going to maybe searching out there to maybe rescue somebody, then maybe there's a thieves' fort hidden underneath a ruin. If there's some, maybe Egyptian themed demon that lives in the pyramid, and maybe there's like a boss battle that kind of takes place there, then maybe you want to put your pyramid out there. Maybe you want to put some kind of tower. Lots and lots of different options. Let's just go with a tower, and I'll put it on top of it. And what also might be interesting is to also rotate it a little bit, so it's kind of maybe tilted a little bit. That might be more interesting. So maybe put it kind of like this, kind of this leaning Tower of Pisa kind of feel to it. And then we can also maybe put some ruins at the base of it. So there was some desert ruins, I believe. Let me take a look at that. This one right here I think would work just fine. Let's scale it down a little bit, and we'll put it right in front of it, so at least it kind of matches a little bit, and it will also kind of hide some of the line work. So I'll put it right up against the tower like that. So there's maybe some ruins that your players have to traverse through, defeat some minions. Then they have to go into this larger building, collapsed or dilapidated building, into the tower to maybe defeat whatever kind of creature is in there. It could be a wizard, a demon, whatever you want. Yeah, half if it's under sand, under the desert, absolutely. So all kind of cool options. Maybe we want to go ahead and go in and type in Dune. Real quick, I'll go ahead and select everything, and let's just go ahead and maybe take a dune or two, and maybe we can cover up some of it, so we can put one right there. Don't care for that color, so we can go in. If you ever feel a stamp doesn't blend in with the landscape properly, again, blend mode, luminosity. So now you have at least that. So we can go in now and add in just a couple dunes in the front to kind of give it a little bit of character. So I'll throw another one there. Make sure that blend mode is set to luminosity again. All right, let's put it over right here. I think should be fine. All right, it's always nice to put some stuff. Let's actually even drop the opacity just a little bit. There we go. All right, so now you have some dunes there, and you have this nice kind of tower hanging out, and there are some other things that you can do. If you want, you can make the tower blend in better. You can change all these things to luminosity, and you'll notice that they're all kind of fit into this kind of sandy now kind of color, so it looks like it matches in a little better. All right, so luminosity is the blend mode that you want to use if you kind of want your stamps to match in with the color of the region that you're working in, which is yellow. So now everything has this yellowish tint, kind of makes it feel like it's either kind of the sandy like color, it's covered in sand. The distortion from the sun kind of makes the color feel like it goes away. So doing that kind of helps to make it pop out. So now we have a desert village or town or whatever, and then you players can go through the desert and go there. Now there are some other options I would also recommend as well. Another village at the other end of the desert kind of makes sense. So another village right here, you'll kind of notice that this is the mouth of the mountain where the desert is kind of closed off. And so this location, because after traveling through here, hopefully you want to reward your players with some water, a rest after defeating, but they still have to go. If they want to continue on to this next region, they have to go through that desert again, and then hopefully to another settlement here, of course, so that they can rest, maybe buy materials, resting, find lodging, food, all that kind of stuff. So you always want to have some kind of settlement at the edge of your desert. So now we can go in and put in another settlement of some kind, just like we did before. Let's just go back to Babylon and desert, and we can kind of go over those. Okay, let's take a look at our options here. There's a bunch of things that we can add in here. Let's take a look. I think this one right here looks good. This simple house right here. I think that looks good. And we can go back and take those palm trees. Let's take them down to 13, which is what I think they were at here. And I'm just going to make a ring of palm trees that just kind of go around here. I'm also going to random, so I don't have the same ones. So I'll just go ahead and ring. I'm just keeping the general theme. So put some palm trees kind of ringing around this. There we go. And let's go ahead and put this right here. And also, I always like to put a tree and kind of put it in the front so it's overlapping. Overlapping is super duper important, okay? Overlap. Let's also have some fun and maybe rotate these in different directions, because them all facing the same way, palm trees kind of bend a little bit, don't they? So let's rotate a couple of these. So that way, they don't look like they're all kind of going the same direction. Let's go rotate one that way, and then let's put one this way. There we go. So now we have some rotated palm trees. Okay, so I think the desert is done, unless you want to put in one last thing. If you were to put something in, you could create like a mountain region, like maybe instead of going south or going north up to these settlements, maybe they can go a little bit west and then go into this mountain range, and maybe there's some kind of temple or ruin or something, or some kind of location. So let's go in, and what I want is I want to create some kind of settlement up against the mountains or ruins or a village of some kind. So if I type in karst, where it's part of, I believe, a kind of a Eastern kind of setup. So let me type in karst real quick, and there should be some thing. So there's a karst dwelling right here. This would work just fine. I could put it right up against, like right up against this thing right here. So it fits right in there. And then I can go in with that magic blend mode, luminosity, and then it kind of matches in. And I might want to scale it up a little bit. And that way you kind of have this nice location right here. And of course, if you want, you can throw in maybe either a ruin or something down here at the base. If you want, maybe you want to put in some stairs leading up to it. So if I type in stair, there should be some from the Babylonian, so modular stairs right here. So maybe I want some stairs kind of leading up to this thing, so I can kind of put some stairs right there. And again, use that luminosity blend mode. There you go. So now you have a little location right here. It seems a little bright. Let's bring down the brightness. There we go. That's much, much better. So now your players can travel from this location, this kind of desert location right here, going west over to climbing up these staircases and going to, and maybe this is an abandoned ruin of some cult, or maybe it's it could be a place where some bandits are hiding. It could be maybe where someone's been kidnapped. Maybe there's a lord or a liege who's, you know, a child, son, daughter, maybe wife, whatever, uncle, whatever, that might have been kidnapped, and they've paid a hefty ransom, and you know, that rich guy being a dick, you know, being a jerk, you know, doesn't want to pay the ransom, so you got to go out there and rescue them. Okay, so this is the place that you go, right? So lots of different choices that you can choose from. This is technically 4 locations, but I think that's kind of nice. You could add one last one over by the water here, but I think 4 locations for one region is quite a bit. There's a ton of battle maps that are going to have to be made for each one of these. Maybe you want to make like a village or a city map top down. So lots of locations. Let's save. And we're at 37 minutes in. We got about 20 minutes left. You know, I think it's okay to work on another region. So while this is saving, we can kind of give some thought about the next area that we might want to create a POI on. There's that forest area, plateaus, hilly regions. There's that winter Arctic, that in the north. There's also that subarctic area in the south. You can put a little POI there. Lots and lots of different options. We have a mesa jungle. I don't know if we actually have an official jungle, but we'll go over the list and take a look. Take a look. I think we have floating islands over here. I'm seeing just forests, but not much jungle. But I think you can, if you mean jungle, maybe forest works fine. So there's these green mountains here with this area. There's tons of open space here. Just as a heads up, if you're having difficulty finding an area for a POI, what works best is the negative area. So a negative area, in my opinion, just so you know what I'm talking about, all a negative area is just a region on the map where there's just texture. So if you look carefully right here, you'll see there's no stamps in that area. That is what I'm defining my terms here. That is what negative space is. Okay? This is the kind of spaces where you're going to be putting your POIs, is the negative space. Okay? Just so you, if you have a hard time figuring it out, it's just negative space. That's where you're going to put your POIs. So you like Arctic region, looks good. We can do Arctic. We can do, I don't think I have a swamp in this one. I goofed up. There isn't every single biome on this map, but yikes, sorry about that. Don't have every single one of them. But I think we can do Arctic. And you know what's really great about Arctic is, in my opinion, these kind of snowy regions, is you don't have to add too much. So if we want, we can go into the catalog, and if you type in cave, I want to give you a little quick little heads up about some easy things to throw in, easy POI. Sometimes you don't know whether to add, what to add. Caves are one of those go-to places, just like when you're making an interior map, you know, you fill in your negative space with crates and barrels. Guess what? When it comes to regional and world maps, caves are the crates of the regional and world map. Okay, that's it. That's where you can go. So if you want, you can go ahead and choose this kind of snowy light cave, and then you can just plop it down in the negative space like we just said, and simple, easy, right? Maybe you want to throw it in right here. Maybe you want to put it here. Maybe it's a little too, we can boost the brightness to match in, or we can, of course, stick with our magic luminosity trick to kind of pick up the color and, of course, boost that brightness. Okay, so now we have a nice cave right there. Boom, done, right? It's one of the simplest ones in the fantasy regional style if you want to put a POI and you don't know what to pick. Caves are that pick, let me tell you. Hey, Big Testifa. Welcome. Tuning in late, that's okay. Absolutely, we'll be adding this to YouTube, so you won't miss a dang thing, I promise, all right? Again, so caves are kind of the, you know, quick and easy POI that you can just slap down. If you feel like you want to add more details to it, you can always create some jagged ice spikes. You could always put something on the cavern. If you want, you could create a little bit of landscape to kind of give it emphasis. Maybe you want to ring it with some with some snowy trees. Lots of different options that you can choose from. It's up to you, right? So maybe we want to do that. Maybe we want to throw in some jagged spikes, right? So we can go in with these staglamites right here. And of course, we can go in and we can change the luminosity or change the saturation and brightness. Lots of options. Why don't we go with luminosity? That's always a trick that works so well, right? So let's go ahead and maybe go ahead and put down some spikes. Let's bring up the brightness. I'm seeing the preview there. A little bit brighter might be nice. Let's bring it down to the smallest size. And you can put like maybe a spike on top of it if you want to give it a little bit more character. So you can go ahead and just boost this up, put this up on top of one, and then maybe let's go ahead and put it like this. So you're just throwing in some extra character to your location. So you can put another spike like right here, and you maybe want to put some spikes, creating some kind of, I don't know, region around it. Let's also don't forget to kind of rotate them a little bit to kind of give it a little bit of a feel to it. So we can throw one in right over here, kind of going like this, or one over here like this. Make sure you leave the opening space right here open so your players can walk and then they kind of see the POI. So it works out kind of well. Let's throw in a smaller one, I think, just to balance it out right there. And I think we could also boost the brightness. That is a bit dark. So we'll boost up that brightness. And if that doesn't seem to work right, you can always boost the contrast as well to kind of remove some of the darker lines if you want. That's up to you. Okay? All right. Well, I think that looks fine. Actually, I think the spikes are still a little too dark. So let's drop the saturation, boost the brightness up even more, and even bring the contrast down. There we go. So it pops out. So one thing you can do is just take one POI like this cavern, and then put some other stamps on top of it to decorate it and to give it a little bit more character. That's up to you. It depends how much time you have. I understand that DMs and GMs don't have time, and they're not necessarily artists, so it's up to you how much work you want to put into it. But if you want to create a POI that's a little bit more unique than just a generic stamp, feel free to just throw on some other landscape or other stamps to put on top of it just to give it a little bit more character, okay? Now, some other things that I did notice in this area, if anyone has any ideas, let me know, but I think we mentioned this in previous streams with POIs, is hills make great locations to put stuff on top of. So if you want to put like maybe a village or something on top, let's go ahead and look at Viking settlements. I think there should be some snow and stuff on there. So let's click in Viking settlements. You'll see some of the roofs of these buildings have some snow on them. So they're kind of a nice choice to pick, right? So we can think of maybe just a small settlement, right? It doesn't have to be anything massive. So we can put like a small settlement right here. If you feel like it doesn't fit right, you can always do that luminosity blend mode trick. You'll notice I use it a lot. And I can boost the brightness so it's not so, and boost the contrast a little bit so that that's not too dark. And I can throw in just a small building right here. And since it's just a small village, it doesn't have to be huge. It is super parallel, unfortunately, it is parallel to this cave right here. I'm not really a fan of that. Maybe I can put it on top of the hill instead, right there. And then you can also consider adding in maybe another building as well, maybe a smaller one facing the other way, maybe one over here up in this corner. I think that should look good. Let's also do that blend mode luminosity, of course, because it just seems to work a little bit better in my opinion. Can't stress to you enough how important luminosity blend mode is. It is the #1 blend mode that I use, okay? Now there's some other things we might want to throw in. You know, when I think of, you know, we can go with something tropey. Maybe we want to create like a winter, like a dead tree or something that might kind of feel like maybe it's a god tree from Winterfell, from Game of Thrones, or a Song of Fire and Ice if you prefer that. So maybe we can take one of these nice kind of interesting looking trees right here and put it right on top like this. And we can just change that blend mode again. We'll just change the saturation to remove all the color, boost the brightness, and maybe even bring the contrast up a little bit. Let's even make the tree just a little bit bigger, I think, because it's a tree. So it's kind of a magic or special kind of tree. It's still not bright enough in my opinion, so we might want to consider just changing the blend mode again to luminosity, make it pop out. And then you kind of have this nice tree right here. And maybe it's a magical tree. I mean, you are in this Arctic area, so how is it surviving? So it might suggest there's some kind of magical element, something magical about that tree, right? Or a big snowy pine. Yeah, you could throw in a big snowy pine. That would work fine too. I'm fine with either or. Let's go ahead and throw in a snowy pine. I think that's a good idea. Let's do that. So let me go ahead into the catalog. Tree should already be written down. There's some pines right here. Perfect. Let's scale them down and let's put a couple, just one on top of the hill, one in front of the hill, one over here, and maybe one that's even overlapping the the frame a little bit. I think that kind of gives it a little bit of character, right? So now you've got some trees in here as well, right? And then this major kind of god tree or a mystical tree. And again, it doesn't have to be the white color. You could take it all the way back and go right back to the original colors. You can make it that color. If you want, you can change the hue. Maybe we want to add in a bluish color would work better. Maybe you like the red. Maybe you prefer green. Maybe you prefer purple. So there's lots of different colors. That hue slider is just absolutely magnificent. So whatever color you kind of feel works best for you works fine with me. Red really pops out against white because white is a neutral color. So whatever color, because there's so much white in this snowy region, it's a neutral color. So whatever colors you decide, besides black, really, because it's another neutral color, whatever color you decide, it's going to pop out a lot against that white. So whatever color you choose works fine. I'm going to stick with red, and I'm probably going to boost the saturation a little bit. I think that works just fine. Maybe it's a blood tree, maybe sacrifices, you know, maybe the tree kind of creates a field of life that can survive, but maybe a sacrifice has to be made, you know, so the tree is red with the sacrifices, the blood of the sacrifices, whatever, right? Going dark here, right? But hey, that is just an idea, okay? So we've got 12 minutes left, and I think it's enough time to throw in maybe a couple more POIs. I see some locations over here. I see some locations over on the left and the right. So maybe we'll throw in just a couple more. Let's go in and take a look at let's go back to that Viking settlement and see if there's something interesting that maybe we can throw in. So you can always use larger settlements like this one right here. This is a snowy Viking fortress. This is a fairly big POI, even at 10%. So you could look for a nice place to put this. I think a mountain is probably the best choice, because if you're thinking about a fortress, you're probably thinking about, you know, the best location that's going to be defensible, right? So maybe on a mountain somewhere, maybe you want it on top of a mountain. This thing is huge. You could put it over here somewhere. We might have to scale it down even smaller because it's just such a huge POI. Maybe you can only access it, via water because you have to go into the water to get to it. So lots of different options. Maybe you want to put in just a smaller settlement. A tower works. There's a snowy Viking tower here. We can maybe put it over here, or you can put it on top of another hill somewhere. Let's go ahead and put a hill right here. So I'll type in hill. Towers is another one of those crate kind of scenarios. They work absolutely fantastic for if you don't know where to put something. You're like, well, I don't really know what to do. Well, guess what? Towers are perfect for you. It's just one of those things where they work great. So let's go with that luminosity blend mode trick, of course. And of course, it might be too dark or too bright. So you just need to make adjustments via your HSBC. So you can change contrast, boost brightness, do all these things to make the stamp pop in better, right? And then from there, I can go in and kind of put a tower right on top of the hill, and it's overlapping the land behind it as well, so that kind of creates this illusion of depth. We can also drop the saturation and bring the brightness up, maybe change the contrast a little bit. In this way, it kind of has that interesting kind of feel to it. And we can also do some other things. Maybe you want it to be shrouded in a veil of fog, right? So we can type in cloud, and we can create this illusion that it's shrouded in this mist, right? You're trying to tell a story for each POI. If you're going to have a tower, each tower kind of needs a story. Is there a wizard who lives in it? Is there what's the story, right? So this one is kind of this idea where there's this mist, and this mist is shrouding the tower, and we're going to put this one behind the tower and not in front. So we'll put it behind it like this. And so there's this mist, a veil of mist shrouding this tower, and maybe it hides the tower. Maybe there's a wizard in it who uses it to hide their location so you can't find them. Lots of different reasons why you might want to shroud it in kind of this mist-like feel. So it's always nice to throw in some kind of element, and it works for all kinds of things. You can put a veil of mist hiding a cavern, a fortress, a mystical village, a town, whatever it is you want. So lots of different options when you're thinking about what you want with your POI. Stories always help, right? Okay, so that's 3 POIs. I think there's room for one more and time for one more, 8 minutes. So we can throw in one last POI. And of course, you know what you always need in one of these sections is there are some fun things to throw in is, of course, a ruin, right? I personally love throwing in ruins. It's, again, one of those just kind of random places. It's a place that you can send your characters if they want to retrieve like a magical item, or if they need to like purge out this ruin area from zombie squatters. I mean, whatever. Lots of different options that you can kind of choose from. So it's always nice to throw in kind of a rando ruin somewhere. Maybe we can put this one along the shoreline. So you have, when you make the battle map, you have a ruin along this Arctic shore, right? So that would look kind of cool. So as always, we're going to go to the blend modes, luminosity, boost that brightness, and maybe even drop that contrast just a bit. And we might even want to transform it. Maybe I'll increase the height a little bit. There we go. Not too much skewing. So it kind of gives it a nice size. And now you have a kind of nice ruin right there. So lots of different things that you can do with ruins. So ruins, towers, villages, caves, all some very key elements when adding to your maps, okay? So a lot we got going on there. Some other things you might want to consider is you could put in like a snowy pine forest that players have to travel through, that they can get to it. Maybe you want to throw in a series of pits here that players have to fight some wandering White Walkers or snow blights or whatever it is that you want to put in your in that area. So lots of different options. When you're thinking about your POIs, think about your battle maps that are going to be involved. Think about how long it's going to take to get there. How are they going to get there? They're going to take dog sleds. Are they going to travel by boat to get to it? So think about all these kind of options. Towers are player magnets, absolutely. Players are going to go to a tower, boom, just like mice to cheese, okay? They're just like, I smell a tower. Guys, I smell a tower. It's upwind of us. Let's go to this tower right now. I'm telling you, I sniff it out and they go right to it. Gotta go to that tower, right? All right, well, I think that is done for today's stream. I think next time we should continue going over the other regions. We have forest, plateau, mesa, wasteland, islands, dark mountains, green mountains, elven-like areas. So I think in the next stream, we will go over every single one of those areas if we can. So part 2, that's going to be next month, just so you know. So I'm excited about that. Let's kind of just go over what we've done as well. It's always nice to kind of go over your options. One thing I like to do whenever I'm going over things is just turn off selection. So now I won't accidentally select anything. So as I'm meandering through the map, looking around, I won't accidentally select anything because I hate when I do that. I'm like, I accidentally selected this mountain change and then moved it by accident. And all I wanted to do was just look at the map. So if you just turn off your selection, everything off, you can go ahead, click that space bar and just kind of go over your map without accidentally selecting anything. So we did a lot. We started with, of course, our volcano area, and we got a lot done. We got a Dark Lord's Tower in with a very much Lord of the Rings inspired tower, and we kind of came up with some ideas. You traverse up the tower, and you want to kick that eyeball off the top of that tower into the lava, into the top. So that kind of works well. There's also these sulfur pits to punish the unloyal of the Dark Lord's legions. So you'll have that. So you have these nice sulfur pits. We used blend modes with paths to create that. Then we kind of shot over to the desert and we went over some very important things about the desert. Having some settlements at the edge or the periphery of the desert is super important so that your players can amp up, get the rest they need, get the equipment that they need, the water skins, the bedrolls, whatever it is they need to get to the main POI within the desert, right? So make sure that you have those settlements. And of course, in the middle of the desert, which is the journey, right, to get to the most important part of that desert, which is that leaning tower plus that ruin at the bottom. And then we also, of course, added in just an extra little POI right here with kind of a karst settlement that's kind of rests on the side of the mountain. We used the magic luminosity blend mode to make sure that those stamps blended in, of course, and that last settlement here, right? And then finally, we ended the stream with our Arctic area. Of course, we went ahead and made a kind of a winter settlement that has two little Viking settlements, and of course a magical tree, because why else would there be a red tree in the middle of an Arctic area? That's a little weird, right? We also created a cavern, which we did a little extra to make it pop out by going ahead and throwing in some stalagmites and using that magic blend mode, of course, luminosity. We made that tower with a shrouded veil of fog so that it's hard to find. And there's a lot of different story that you can come up with that. And then we ended it with, of course, one ruined area off the coast, which is absolutely perfect for a battle map, right? You get to create this nice coastline and then just dilapidated, ruined building, and you have to go in and maybe clean it out. Maybe there's some, ice demons or spirits, whatever it is that you can come up with, right? Your POI should tell a bit of a story, right? So always think about that when you're putting down your POI. So next month, we'll go ahead and do a part 2, and we'll go ahead and do these kind of foresty areas, because those are really fun. I love those forest areas, as well as the mesa. Oh, thank you. Hey, and congratulations, Becca, by the way, on winning the competition for hell. That is so awesome. Chef's kiss. Absolutely beautiful, by the way. Love it. I love it. Love it. Oh, hey, first time chat. The man got it. Welcome. Glad that you are here, by the way. So glad you're here. I'm glad that you find the tips helpful. Is there a video for this map itself on YouTube already? Is there a video for the video? Will be uploaded right after this. As soon as I end this stream, Diana Dubell, I am going to upload it to YouTube, and boom, it'll be ready. So, hey, that's what's going to be coming up next. It usually takes about an hour or two, so expect it within the next 2 or 3 hours, okay? You'll find it on YouTube. You can see it from beginning to end. Real quick, just want to mention what's coming up next. Again, on the 20th, understanding blend modes. So you built the whole map in the stream? No, I only added the POIs to the map. The map is downloadable. If you can go ahead and add that link right here. Here's the link to that map, Diana Dubell. There's the link to that map. You can put your own POIs on it. Make sure to clone and edit that map so that you can follow along in the stream. And of course, this is from an older map that I made recently. It's okay that you're late. It's all right. Everyone's got busy lives. I totally understand. Life is difficult and people need to find time. So it's okay. Don't worry. All right, folks. Well, I think that is it. Great stream. Thank you, everyone, for giving suggestions. I absolutely loved it. You've all been wonderful. You're beautiful people. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you all next Wednesday at the next stream, understanding blend modes. And whew, I'm biting my nails because that's going to be a hard one. Blend modes are such a pain in the buns, right? All right, y'all. Really enjoyed. Had a great time. Look for this on YouTube in a couple hours. Happy hump day. We're almost there. Couple more days to the weekend, folks. Please stay safe and healthy and merry map making. I'll see you on the flip side.